Apartments in Calgary have seen 16 consecutive months of price increases with no signs of slowing down. The last time we saw a price decrease for the apartments in Calgary was in December 2022. 16 months later, we are now reaching $350,000 for an apartment here in Calgary, Alberta. Let's get into it. My name's Fyfe, your Calgary Realtor. If you're looking at getting into the market, very important that you do your research. It is a very busy market as the apartment sector is absolutely taking off. If you want to know what your apartment is worth, I have an AI software that's linked in the description. Go ahead, put in your apartment address, and it'll spit out an instantaneous home evaluation. Research is so important when you're getting into a hot seller's market just like Calgary. So let's dive into this. Now, the CMHC has forecasted existing home prices in Canada is going to surge 20% higher over the next 2 years. And the apartment condominiums in Calgary is probably going to be right there along with this average stat, as there's really no signs of slowing down for the apartment prices in the city. Now, with that being said, apartments are now worth $346,000, a 17.7% increase from last year, which is a $46,000 increase. And in 1 month, we've seen $8,500 as a whole increased in Calgary. So with that being said, there's attributes in play. I talk about this in every single video. 2-bed, 2-bath, 905 square feet, underground parking, and built in 2005. So when you're looking at the benchmark prices here, and you want to know what your home is worth, and you want to know what the benchmark price is in your community or in your quadrant, you just want to make sure that you're kind of running some numbers and making sure that you have the attributes in place before you start making too many assumptions. So with that being said, let's read what the Calgary Real Estate Board has written about the apartments in Calgary. And if you want to read it on your own, no offended, go ahead, pause the video, read it on your own, and skip to the next chapter. Apartments. Sales in April reached 822 units, contributing to a year-to-date sales of 2,761 units, a gain of 24%. Apartment condominium sales have risen more than any other property type and now represents nearly 30% of all sales activity. This, in part, has been possible due to the rise in new listings. April reported 1,050 new listings, helping support a monthly gain in inventory levels in line with seasonal expectations. However, inventory levels remain nearly 13% lower than last year's and 35% below long-term trends. Like other property types, year-over-year supply declines are driven by lower priced segments of the market, which for apartment condominiums is units priced below $300,000. Overall, persistent sellers market conditions in the lower price ranges are driving further price growth. In April, the unadjusted benchmark price reached $346,000 a month, a gain over 2% and nearly 18% higher than last April. Year-over-year price growth ranged from 30% in the Northeast and East districts to as low as 13% in city center. So apartments on absolute fire, especially for those that are priced under $300,000. Apartments are quite interesting because there's a lot of new projects coming up in Calgary, which just spits on a lot of inventory to the market. Now, hopefully that inventory can get absorbed by the actual the buyers in the market, kind of hopefully leveling out inventory. But the thing with apartments is that if you got enough projects closing all at the same time, the supply ranges just dramatically increase, which can kind of slow down the prices. But if you look at this chart here, the prices are not slowing down. If you look at the red bar here, it's been increasing since April 2023. And when you actually look at this chart here from last year, you can see right in January of 2023, so about 16 months ago, you can see that we absolutely took off in the new year and we really haven't slowed down since. So the inventory has slowly been increasing, but the sales have been increasing ever so more, making that inventory to sales a little bit tighter, especially when you compare it to last year. You can see if you kind of measure the degree of the price increases, you can actually see that the degree of last year was pretty consistent. And if you look at this year, it's actually a sharper increase than what it was last year, indicating to me that I don't think we're going to see a slowdown in this apartment complex. But with that being said, there are a lot of new projects coming on the market, so we could see a softening in price increases, but I don't think we're going to see a leveling out this year. This chart here is the same information, just in a numerical value. Oh, this is the wrong, I screenshotted the wrong one. So you know what, we're just going to continue on with that. I'm already halfway into it. So this is the overall market for apartment complexes in Calgary. So if we look at the sales here, we're up about 24%. If you look at the total sales volume, we're not quite at $1 billion yet, but we're at $948 million, up 45% from last year. You can see that the new listings has increased, which is great to see. We're at 3,500 new listings year to date. You can see that the inventory has decreased. The months of supply is almost at 1 month, which is pretty crazy for the apartment sector. I do want to point out that apartments struggled for a long time here in Calgary. From about 2015 to 2020, even 2021, apartments were just so high in the months of supply. We were all the way up to like 7-8 months of supply at one point when the market was very, very slow. So the fact that we're at 1 month of supply is absolutely gnarly to me. The sales to new listing ratio is almost at 80% again, which is pretty crazy, just meaning that a lot of the homes that are being listed that month are selling, 80% of them. Sales to new list price ratio is over 100%, meaning that the majority of homes that are listed are getting over ask price. You do have to be careful with that. I do see a lot of people asking above and beyond what I personally believe market value is, so you still want to price intelligently. Days on market is down to 26 days. Again, for this market, for the condo apartments in Calgary, it's pretty crazy to see. It's a very busy market. 26 days is pretty gnarly. Again, talking about some of the things that we've experienced in the last 5 years, we were like at 50, almost 60 days on market, if not higher, for the apartment complexes in Calgary. So 26 days is very, very hot. So when we start to look at the city of Calgary total sales year to date, this is every property type kind of morphed into one graph. The green bar is the apartments. And if you look at here, you can see that it's fairly consistent over the last 2 to 3 years. 2023, we have seen an increase in sales. And if you look at 2022, we have seen an increase in sales when you start to look at these green bars. So, point proven, you look at 2005, 2020, look how little the green bar is compared to what we're seeing now. So the apartments is a welcomed new bump of activity, especially for a lot of investors that really just tried to ride that wave out from 2016, and prices are now increasing and not slowing down. So total inventory by price range. Apartments usually hover around that 100 to 300,000. Obviously, Calgary has a lot of 400,000 plus apartments, but when you start to look at this chart here, anything under $200,000 is basically gone. There still is a little bit of homes left over at the end of the month, but they're virtually non-existent compared to what we've seen even just 2 years ago. Quite a bit of inventory in the $300,000 to $400,000. You start to dabble into some townhouses there, but majority of that would be apartments, and then going up in price range there. So, months of supply, looking at the apartments. Apartments here have the most months of supply compared to every other property type. It does have a lot of inventory compared to a lot of other property types. One building, 200 units. Fairly self-explanatory in the entire city. So when you're looking at this here, you can see that North Calgary has the lowest months of supply compared to other quadrants, meaning that it has the fastest activity. When you start to look at City Center, you can clearly see that it has the highest months of supply, but it has the most inventory compared to other quadrants, which kind of makes sense. East Calgary surprisingly has the second highest months of supply, which I was kind of surprised to see. There's just not a lot of apartments in East Calgary compared to other places in Calgary. They are a little bit less expensive, they're a little bit more affordable, but surprisingly enough, they have one of the higher months of supply. So when we start to look at the benchmark prices here, fairly interesting. You can see that City Center, West, and Southeast actually all have roughly the same benchmark price when comparing to other quadrants in the city. You can see that East Calgary is the most affordable, all hovering around that $350,000 to $300,000, give or take. So when you start to look at this, you just want to make sure that you're putting those benchmark attributes into play. So we spoke about City Center, West, and Southeast. So let's just quickly bust through what those benchmark attributes are in those cities, and you can see the difference. When you look at City Center, you got a 2-bed, 1 full bath, no half bath. So it's a 2-in-1, 881 square foot, underground parking, built in 2001. When you look at West Calgary as an example, it's a 2-bed, 2 full bath, 974 square feet, and built in 2003. And then when you look at the southeast portion, you can see it's a 2-bed, 2 full bath, 900 square foot, built in 2014. So when you see those three attributes there, they're very different. So if we were to actually take those attributes and put them one over the other, it's very, very interesting to see just how much those benchmark changes. So when you are trying to compare different cities and you're looking at these benchmarks, just make sure that you're putting the attributes into play, because it changes the price dynamic by quite a bit. So with that being said, let's kind of look at the year-over-year price growth comparison. Northeast and East Calgary, like every other quadrant in the city, are seeing the highest percentage of increases. East Calgary has saw a 34% increase year over year. Massive increase, and we'll touch on that in a second. And then Northeast is seeing a 30% increase year over year. Everything else hovering around that 18 to 22% increase, which is still very, very high. And we'll touch on that in a second. If you're curious of how much your home has actually increased yourself, go ahead and put it in this AI software. Very slick. Apartments are pretty close actually on this assumption or on this assessment. They can go in, you put in your property address, make sure you click the drop down link there and it clicks into your building, and it is relatively close. It's very cool. It's instantaneous. It'll send you an email within 30 to 45 seconds. It's pretty crazy. So with that being said, this is the microeconomic breakdown looking at all individual quadrants in the entire city. So you've got your sales, you've got your new listings, and then your sales to new listings ratio. If we look at city center, just to kind of point this out, you can see that there was almost 400 sales and 540 new listings. Clearly the dominant quadrant for activity. If we look at other places like North as an example, you can see that they had 64 sales and 59 new listings, which is 110% sales to new listing ratio, which means that the inventory actually decreased from last month. If we go over one more, this is the months of supply. You can see that there's quite a few under 1 month of supply. Northeast, Northwest, South, all seeing less than 1 month of supply, meaning that a lot of that product would be sucked up within a month if no new buyers, no new listings came to the market. Crazy stuff. Benchmark price here, you can see that the benchmark price, a lot of things hovering around that, $340,000, $350,000 price point. The only quadrant seeing less than $300,000 is East Calgary, which is, you can see the numbers, it's 13 sales, 60 new listings, obviously showcasing that there's very few listings there, but $250,000 for an apartment there makes for a pretty good investment property, if I'm being honest. If we start to look at the percentages, we can see that Northeast and East Calgary saw those 33% increases, which are crazy. Month over month, everything's seeing around that 2.5 months, percentage of increase. All quadrants are seeing increases, so I'll clear this now. You can see that City Center saw over $10,000 increase, North seeing a $9,300, with the smallest increase being Northwest, surprisingly enough, only seeing $4,000. Still an increase nonetheless, but the smallest increase that we saw in the entire city. If you compare it to last month, all of these quadrants are seeing a lot of increases month over month with no slowing down in sight. I've said that before. So this chart's pretty cool. So the red line here is the only thing we're really going to concentrate on. And if I circle this here, you can see that there's been double-digit price growth for year-over-year changes for the last, let's call it 8, 9, maybe even more than that. Probably the last year and a half, we've seen double-digit, over 10% year-over-year increases in the apartment market as a whole. I would imagine the apartments are going to see double-digit price growth for quite some time. We have seen year-over-year growth since early 2021 with no slowing down. So this chart here is another one that's pretty crazy. You can see just how much we decreased from 2019 to 2022, and then the sharp increase in price, not slowing down much at all. You can see in the late 2022 with the increases in interest rate, we did see a soften. We actually saw a very minor decrease, and then 2023 we just took off. So with that being said, I don't believe the apartments are going to see any sort of price increase or stabilization for at least a year, if not 2. So if you have any questions about apartment complexes here in Calgary, go ahead and reach out, comment below. I'm very sorry for the delay in uploading this video. This is the longest it's ever taken me to upload apartment updates for the month. I promise next month I'll be better. Thank you very much for all of your questions, your comments, your concerns, all this jazz. Challenge me in the comments. Type up something that makes me think. I really appreciate that. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.